People have asked me over the years why I'm not a white-collar criminal lawyer. And I always respond with, I didn't get run out of accounting, I ran from accounting. And so to run from accounting and pursue the same profession wasn't in the bucket list. The plan from the jump was that I didn't necessarily want to work for a district attorney's office, that I didn't necessarily want to work in anything that felt bureaucratic, anything where I felt like I had to answer to a boss or a board or a panel. I wanted to have some freedom. When I graduated a little bit early, 2.5 years instead of the 3. I worked for 6 months, hung on to the clerkship that I had for about 6 months before they realized the only code book that I had in my civil PI job office was the penal code. And they politely asked me to leave, which I did. I got some high quality paper stock, and with the help of my older brother, printed out my first set of business cards. I think it was maybe 50, and spent the evening with my mom's fabric scissors cutting out little cards, and I rubber banded them together, put them in a leather computer bag, and took the only tools of the trade I had with me to the courthouse. I had a leather work bag, the penal code, and a rubber banded stack of business cards. And I knew from law school that I could not directly approach anybody and ask if they needed a lawyer. So I just stood in the hallways and prayed that somebody would think I looked like one and ask for my help. That is more or less how the law office of Rick Oliver got its start. I think if you come from humble beginnings, pride isn't something that stands in your way very often. I knew that I had to make a living. I knew that there was no net underneath me, and I knew that there was no lifeline above me. I was going to achieve whatever I was willing to work towards. And so I didn't have a lot of pride with respect to not knowing answers. I expected myself to have questions. So any lawyer that I ran across that I thought or heard was respectable, I would ask them questions. And I've been very, very fortunate that a lot of my colleagues in this profession, in particular ones that have specialized in criminal law, are very humble themselves and forthright and willing to take the time and answer the questions of a young attorney. The benefit of not working in the DA's office was really only one. I didn't kind of get the mentality that comes through a district attorney's office training. I kind of have approached every case I've ever had with the mentality of a defense lawyer, because that's all I've ever known. One of the biggest weaknesses I knew that I would have is that if you work in the DA's office for any amount of time, 2 years, 1 year, you are kind of inundated with trials. It's trial by fire. That's ultimately what runs a lot of people out. That's why a lot of people go there, is to get that experience. And so in the beginning of my career, I knew I wasn't going to have that. And so the only way to get experience or relevant experience was to try all the cases that I could. So I tried a number. The easiest cases in the beginning of my career to try were DWI. So I built a practice around the particulars of a DWI stop, investigation, arrest, and prosecution, and have expanded from there. One of the things I was able to do was to accumulate enough trial experience in the form of misdemeanor trials and felony trials, and then also appellate work. That was another thing. One of my childhood loves was writing. As it turns out, not a ton of criminal defense trial lawyers love to write or research. And so I've been able to build a side practice, or kind of an additional avenue of practice, handling appeals and then writs of habeas corpus. And so I've accumulated a lot of experience to start by asking questions, and then down the road became a person who was answering questions, because the experiences that I've had in all these cases, has brought with it, relevant experience and knowledge and, answers to some of those questions. I still ask a bunch of questions, but I'd say at this point of my career, I answer as many questions, more questions than I ask. The hardships to overcome, one was, pride, which wasn't a problem for me, and the other was just patience and doing the work. Sitting down with a citizen accused of an offense, having the knowledge that they need to be confident in you, and then delivering. And without those things, I don't think that I would have lasted.